Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
So we've already released an episode looking at the biggest winners from the 2023 high school recruiting cycle. Now we're going to turn it around and look at the losers. So we will start with the biggest loser on this podcast. Trey, you give us the biggest recruiting.
Got to do it every year.
One of them.
Every year.
Right. Yeah, they always set that up for me. All right.
Yep.
Now I'm going to start out with Kentucky. Stoops has done a fine job at Kentucky, but they've been trying to kind of elevate the program even more and get themselves more into the national picture and more relevant in the SEC. Just signed a massive contract extension through 2031 at about $9 million per year. And then this year they finished 7-6, 3-5 in conference, including a loss to Vanderbilt. They had some high expectations with Will Levis. And, last offseason, he had the squabble about wanting to be treated on par with the basketball team. But now they have the worst class they've had in a few years. It's 12th in the SEC. The transfer class is 18th in the country. The gem of it is Devin Leary, the NC State transfer. So they're really going to need him to pan out. But overall, a class like this doesn't necessarily invoke a ton of confidence for Big Blue Nation, to take the next step that they wanted, especially when signing him to that extension.
Yeah, that makes sense. Staying in the SEC, Texas A&M is our next loser here because last year, best recruiting class ever, just
quite
incredible.
A jump down.
Of course, they've lost a few guys to from that class and on the team overall, quite a few. But I figured they'd be at least. I thought they'd be top 5 this year, but at least top 10 in recruiting.
Yes.
And they are 15th. Only 19 players, but still, that's a disappointing class compared to what you would have thought. Obviously, going 5-7 hurt them. I think probably other schools catching up in NIL probably had a little bit to do with it as well. So just not a great offseason so far for A&M, just with the transfer outs and underwhelming recruiting.
Yep. That's Jimbo running out of time there. All right, I'm going to the ACC.
Got a lot of money that they'd need to pay him, though.
Well, fair enough. I feel like they would do it if they have another bad year, but we'll see.
Maybe.
ACC, Virginia Tech, the 37th ranked class here. That's not too horrible. Like when you kind of just think about Virginia Tech and the ACC, when you compare it with the rest of the ACC, actually too. But you got to. I consider like this is Brent Pry's first full class. And that's generally when you're supposed to have kind of arguably one of your best classes. You got some positive momentum because you're a new hire. You can usually sell maybe some playing time. So you'd usually see some good classes the first full one. But 37th just is not good. It's just a couple of 4 stars, and they were like very low 4 stars, barely. And it's not like the class suffered because they didn't take many kids. There was 27 kids that they took. So that's just a really disappointing class. And Virginia Tech, their recruiting just overall has suffered the last several years. Nowhere near top 25 caliber, and that's kind of where they used to be, seemingly for a long time with those great teams that they had. But kind of top 25ish, top 30. But now they're suffering. So that's not a good class for Brent Pry.
No, and state of Virginia has good talent. All right, I'm going to go to Syracuse. Now, Dino Babers, he bought some goodwill last year, starting the year 6-0, but then he finished 1-6 down the stretch. He's on the hot seat once again, and the problem now is that they have the worst class in the ACC, 81st overall. The transfer class, if you factor that in, is 55th, so not like that's really kind of saving him right now. I understand it's not an easy place to recruit. I get it. The main players they get are from a part of New York where it's not a total hotbed, in some parts at least. But now it's Babers' worst class since he's been there. And even if they manage to overachieve a little bit this year, a class like this doesn't necessarily bode well for future success. So it's a tough one for Syracuse.
Yeah, he just seems to be kind of perennially on the hot seat. So see what happens there. My next loser is Cal. They finished 86th in the 24/7 composite. I believe that was the lowest of any Power 5 school. they did bring in a solid transfer class, but they also lost some really good players in the portal. So not even sure that was a net gain there. I'm just not. I imagine Cal fans either are thrilled with the direction of the program under Justin Wilcox. He turned down, of course, that Oregon job when Lanning took it, and
Oregon
kind of
fans
thought,
got to
hey,
be
that's
pretty
a good
happy
sign.
about
Maybe
that.
he's
Yeah.
maybe sees something good happening at Cal, but I don't know if they have another underwhelming year on the field, then it's going to be in a tough spot because they also just recently signed him to an extension. So
Yeah.
not sure he's able to be bought out anytime soon. So they're just going to have to hope that they can coach him up.
Yeah, that doesn't look good up there.
And by the way, only 10 high schoolers in this class.
Oof.
So a very small class, but like I said, it's not like the transfer class was great.
No, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to go back to the ACC. I'm taking Pittsburgh. They had the 51st ranked class, which when you consider kind of the success they've had on the field the past couple of years, 2 years ago winning the ACC, this year they won 9 games, won the Sun Bowl. There should be at least some momentum on the recruiting front, you would think, but nope, just one 4-star linebacker from Virginia. But that's not good enough. It's 2 years in a row actually for them now having horrible classes, which doesn't make sense. They've had their most success on the field the last 2 seasons. So that I don't doesn't quite understand what's going on there in Pittsburgh. They're not bringing in a really good transfer group either, although they do bring in Boston College / Notre Dame transfer Phil Jurkovec at quarterback. So I'll be interested to see how he pans out there. But super disappointing for Pitt. Like you would think they could have translated their success into some recruiting, but not at all.
All right. I'm going to go back. This one may be controversial. I don't know. Not to me. I got Michigan here. So on the surface, 18th ranked high school class, not awful. They also got some decent transfers. But when you consider Michigan being in the playoff the last 2 seasons, knocking on the door this past year, they really had a chance, you thought, to kind of maybe punch through and win it all. You just thought that they would actually have a better class after that run. It's still a good class, but it becomes very unlikely to break through and win it all, given how far ahead teams like Alabama and Georgia are, even Ohio State, in their own division. And that's the other thing is they're third in the Big Ten East. Ohio State and then Penn State have better classes. The Harbaugh coaching drama with the NFL obviously isn't helping here, I'm sure. Their highest ranked recruit was 120th on 24/7. Again, I'm not scoffing at the class. There's some talented players. They got a nice defensive lineman from Texas, a couple 4-star corners, a receiver out of Alabama, but just no home runs, no 5 stars. I know Harbaugh generally, develops very well, but this isn't a class that closes the gap, from just making the playoff to actually winning it all.
Yeah. You got to think Harbaugh. NFL rumors have not helped recruiting the last couple of years, and sure, it's like I think Michigan fans would probably say, "Hey, well, we made the playoff 2 years in a row without recruiting top 5 classes," but it's like, okay, but will you continue to be able to kind of defy the odds in that way? Maybe, but yeah, if you want to win it all, probably needs to be better than this class.
Yes, you do.
My final loser is Rutgers. So before Greg Schiano got there, Rutgers was ranked somewhere in the 50s and 60s typically in the recruiting rankings. But Schiano's first 2 full classes were 39th and 33rd. So I was very high on him and the direction of the program. He seemed to really be hitting New Jersey hard, hitting the recruiting trail hard, and they were showing signs of improvement on the field. But this year, their recruiting class 57th, not one player from the top 500. Transfer class isn't good either. And really just not a good year on the field. So all that kind of confidence I had in Schiano is waning.
Yeah, it's too bad. I hope they have a better year this year and can get some momentum going. I'd like to see Rutgers get decent again. All right, my last loser going to the Big 12, Oklahoma State. It hasn't happened totally on the field yet, but things kind of seem to be falling apart in Stillwater a bit. I guess you could say the second half of the season was a bit falling apart for them, but 55th ranked class, no 4-star players. a ton of transfers left the program, some pretty darn good ones, unfortunately for them. Their highest rated player is a quarterback from Nebraska who didn't have an impressive offer list. Nebraska didn't offer him. I mean, he could end up being pretty good, maybe, who knows, but just doesn't bode well when he doesn't have a lot of offers and that's your best player. So, and of the current teams, the current 10 teams in the Big 12, they only beat out Kansas. So it's not very good for Gundy.
Okay, well, that will do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. Be sure to let us know in the comments below on YouTube if you disagree with any of our losers here. Chime in with any other disappointing classes that we missed, and subscribe to the podcast. We're trying to grow, especially on YouTube, so we would appreciate that, and we'll see you next time.